everyone. Good morning and welcome to today's The Hindu News Analysis. Myself Nitin K. Biju, I'll be appearing for the civil service interview this year. In today's analysis, we'll be talking about 6 main articles which are covered in the Hindu newspaper. Before going to the main article, I would like you to pause for a second and try to attempt this practice question by yourself. After discussing the relevant article, we'll be coming back to the question again. The first article, pre-retirement judgments and post-retirement jobs. This is related to the recent appointment of the retired Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi, as the Rajya Sabha member. Now, coming to the article, Chapter 4 of Part 5 of the Constitution deals with Supreme Court, and Chapter 5 of Part 6 deals with the High Courts. This is a very important fact for prelims. Also, the salaries of the judges and their age of retirement are all guaranteed in order to secure their independence. Also, they cannot be easily removed from the office except by impeachment, which is mentioned under Article 124, Clause 4 and 217, Clause 1b. So, all these provisions are given to ensure the security of tenure of the judicial members. Now, coming to the recent issue. So, it was thought that on retirement, the judges will lead a retired life. Nobody expected them to take post of executive or legislature. But the clear demarcation between the judiciary and the executive, it is being blurred in the recent times. The two examples being, some years ago, former Chief Justice of India was made a governor of a state. Also, very recently, the example of Ranjan Gogoi, Chief Justice of India, being nominated by the President as a Rajya Sabha member. This is a very important issue because the Chief Justice of India, the ex-Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi, had made many important judgments, such as the Ayodhya judgment and the Rafale judgments, which all went in favor of the government. So what issue this creates? This creates an issue where people are losing confidence in the independence of the judiciary. Also, the desire of a post-retirement job will definitely affect the pre-retirement judgments, right? Because if a person, even a Supreme Court judge, is also a human being, so he will have an idea of his future. His personal ambitions will be there. So his post-retirement ambitions might affect his pre-retirement judgments. So that is what, and in that manner, the independence of the judiciary will be negatively affected. Right. Now, coming to a bare reading of the Article 80 Clause 3 of the Constitution, it provides that the President can nominate persons who have special knowledge in literature, science and art and social science as members of the Rajya Sabha. But never the constitutional makers would have thought that a retired judge or the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will be considered for that post. That was not the intention of the constitution makers. Therefore, this decision to appoint judges to executive and legislative positions is clearly against the principle of separation of powers. We should know that separation of powers have been mentioned under the DPSP. Please go through the relevant article. Now, the article is telling that it is time to have a law in place either by way of a constitutional amendment or a legislation barring such appointments. Also, in order to compensate the judges for their retirement life, they can be given the pension. They can given the pension which was equal to the salary during retirement. Also, the age of retirement of the judges can be postponed by an year or two. So these two measures can actually stop judges from taking post-retirement jobs in the executive or the legislature. Also, it is very important to remember that judges are constitutional servants, not government servants. They are a constitutional position. This is a very important statement which can be used in the mains examination. So this topic comes under GS2. Now, coming to the practice question, consider the following statements. A judge of a Supreme Court can be removed from his office by an order of the President supported by a special majority of each House of Parliament. First statement. Second statement, the grounds of removal are two: proved misbehavior or incapacity. Which of the above statements are correct? So, if we have read the Indian Polity by Lakshmikant, we might have gone through the judiciary chapter in the Supreme Court chapter. In that, we can see that both the statements are correct. So, the answer is C, both 1 and 2. Coming to another article, attacks on health workers to attract up to 7 years in prison. So, the Union Cabinet on Wednesday has approved an ordinance to amend the Epidemic Diseases Act of 1897, making acts of violence against medical staff a cognizable and non-bailable offense. This comes in the backdrop of the situation where many health workers are being attacked when they go to take data, or the doctors are attacked or the nurses are attacked during in the hospitals itself. So this is the situation. So in the backdrop of this situation, this much needed legislation, I mean ordinance, is being promulgated. Now, please go through the relevant article in the Indian Polity which says about ordinances. It is Article 123. Now, according to this ordinance, the investigation will be completed in 30 days and the final decision will be arrived within 1 year. And the punishment for such attacks will be 3 months to 5 years and fine up to 50,000 to 2 lakhs. In the severe cases where there are grievous injuries, the punishment will be 6 months to 7 years and the fine of 1 lakh to 5 lakh. So this is an effort. It is a step in the right direction to ensure the safety of the medical workers who are working day and night to help the country out of the pandemic, right? Now, let us see what is meant by a cognizable offense. As we already seen, the ordinance says that the attack will be a cognizable offense. Cognizable offense means it is an offense where the police officer can arrest a person without a warrant. So that is the most important point. A police can come and arrest without a warrant. Now, coming to coming to bailable and non-bailable offense. A person who is arrested for a bailable offense may secure bail at a police station, but a person who has been arrested for non-bailable offense have to secure the bail in the court itself, and the court has the privilege to decide whether the person should be given bail or not. So that is a non-bailable offense. So just not the differences between cognizable, non-cognizable, bailable and non-bailable. Okay, so this this ordinance is cognizable as well as non-bailable. Okay. Now, another important prelims concepts is regarding the Epidemic Diseases Act 1897. This is in news due to the COVID pandemic. So, the Epidemic Diseases Act 1897, it is a law which was first enacted in Mumbai to tackle the plague there. Now, it is meant for containment of epidemics by providing special powers that are required for the implementation of containment measures to control the spread of the disease. Now, this act has been routinely used to contain various diseases such as swine flu, cholera, malaria, and dengue. Also, starting in March 2020, this act is being enforced across India in order to spread the coronavirus disease of 2019. So, this act is being amended recently with the ordinance. Okay. Now, coming to the third topic. Global remittances will see a sharp fall, World Bank. So, let me give you an introduction to what remittance is. This is for the beginners. Remittance is a transfer of money, often by a foreign worker, to an individual in their home country. Right? For example, Indian diaspora is there in many parts of the world. So, when those people send money back to India, to their relatives or friends or whomever it is, so that money is called as remittances. Okay, and India remains the top receiver of remittance. So Indian economy is very much dependent on remittances, and it has a very important role in reducing the deficits of the country. Now, coming to the news article, Global remittances are projected to experience the sharpest decline in recent times, and the decline is up to 20%, owing to migrant losing jobs and wages because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Apart from the COVID 19 pandemic, the declining oil prices are also likely to reduce remittances from US, UK, and the EU countries to South Asia. And to South Asia, the projected reduction is around 22%. As we have seen in yesterday's news analysis, the oil prices have crashed, right? The WTI, the West Texas oil prices, it has reduced to below zero. It was around minus $37 a barrel. We have seen that yesterday. So this is also likely to cause reduction in the remittances. Now coming to India, the remittances for 2020 are projected to fall by 23% to around 64 billion dollars. So it was in 2018 our remittances was around 80 billion dollars. So from that the reduction will be around 23%. And this is very important. Which report says it? The report is COVID-19 crisis to a migration lens, which is released by the World Bank. Now, what are the importances of remittance? Remittances are very crucial for low and middle income countries, financing the household and family expenses, and such as on higher education, and even the nutritional outcomes are also dependent on the remittances. So we can see the direct link between higher education, nutritional standards, and all to the remittances. Also, remittances are definitely a source of income for the developing countries. As we all know, India's population in the Gulf, in the US, UK, all those people send back money to India, and that is very important for the economy of the country. So this is what the article says about. So here you have to remember the name of the report, that is the COVID-19 crisis through migration lens report by World Bank for prelims, as well as you can use the statistics to under GS3 in economy. Now coming to the next article. No 100% quota for tribal teachers, Supreme Court. A five-judge Supreme Court bench of the constitutional bench of the Supreme Court held it unconstitutional to provide 100% reservation for tribal teachers in schools located in scheduled areas across the country. The judgment says that it is an obnoxious idea. Obnoxious means objectable idea to have only tribals teach tribals. Right. So this is an issue where Andhra Pradesh government had decided to provide 100% reservation to tribals to teach for the post of teachers in scheduled areas. So the court has said no, it is not possible to give 100% reservation. It has also said that merit cannot be denied in toto by providing reservation. The court also held that 100% reservation is discriminatory and impermissible. Also, the 100% reservation to scheduled tribes, it will impact the scheduled caste and other backward classes who are also socially and educationally backward. The court also referred to Indrasani judgment, which caps reservation at 50%. Please go through the Indrasani judgment. This is available in Indian Polity by Lakshmikant. It comes under, it is discussed in under Article 16 also. So please go through the main features of the Indrasani judgment. Okay. As we already told, the case stemmed from a legal challenge to Jan 10, 2000 order issued by the state of Andhra Pradesh, providing 100% reservation to the scheduled tribe candidates, out of which 33% shall be for women. So it was for the post of teachers in schools located in scheduled areas of the state. So the Supreme Court has told that 100% reservation is not possible. Now coming to the next topic, this is the editorial of today. Exploiting a pandemic. So recently, you might have heard that the Donald Trump has started his increased controls over the immigrations. So the United States President Donald Trump has announced that he would be using an executive order to suspend for 60 days legal immigration into the country. So the reason why what he told us, the need to protect the jobs of the great American citizens. Also, the order is not expected to halt visa proceedings for temporary employees. For example, H1B visas, the H2B visas, we'll be seeing what it is individually in greater detail, we'll be seeing it. So this order might not affect H1B and H2B visas because they are temporary visas. This order is aimed at the permanent immigration, the people who want to come there and settle there forever. So Trump is targeting those immigrants, those people. Okay, not the temporary people. That is, the non-immigrants are not targeted here. Also, there have been exemptions given to essential workers like those who are working in the healthcare and who are seeking to immigrate via their immediate relatives. So there are some exemptions also, and it is not targeting the temporary immigrations also. So there is a doubt that this is a diversionary tactic designed to shore up the president's flagging political capital. As we all know, the president's election is coming to, it's about to happen in the US. So everyone feels that this is the normal drama by Donald Trump, which he used in 2016 also. The idea of make America great again. So policies against immigrants. So this is seen to be a continuation of this policies, and it comes at a time when it comes at a bad time when the world is fighting COVID-19 and US is worse affected by COVID-19. So instead of focusing on those policies, Trump is giving more importance to his political career. So that is the article which is talking about yeah, and it is written that so the president seems to have pivoted to signature campaign issue of immigration, like he did effectively during the 2016 election, to animate its core constituent base of blue collared workers across the red states of the country. So, what is this blue collared workers? Blue collared workers are the workers who are doing manual jobs like construction, warehousing, all those things. And what are the red states of the country? You know, there are 50 states in the US. So, among those states, the states which are traditionally supporting the Republican Party, that is Donald Trump's party, are called as the red states, and the other states which support the Democrats party, for example Obama's party, is termed as the blue states. Okay, so this is what the article talks about. So here we'll just see some terms which we are read. Immigrant status. So what is an immigrant status? This is for people who try to live permanently in the United States. The synonymous terms are permanent resident, immigrant, green card holder, and their resident alien. So we have seen that the Trump's present policy is against immigrant status. That is for the people who want to live permanently in US. Coming to non-immigrant status, this is for the people who want to enter US on a temporary basis. For example, tourism, business, temporary work or study. Okay, so the present policy is not targeting these people. Now coming to H1B visa. H1B visa is a visa in the United States under a specific act which allows US employers to temporarily employ foreign workers in specialty occupations. Okay, for example, a company like Facebook or Google employing a Indian IT professional, it comes under H1B visa. So, and it is a temporary occupation. So, the specialty occupation requires the application of specialized knowledge and a bachelor's degree or the equivalent of work experience. So this is what H1B visa is related to. There's something else called as H2B visa. H2B visa is actually a seasonal visa. It is a non-immigrant program. That means temporary program. It permits employers to hire foreign workers to come temporarily in the United States and perform temporary non-agricultural services or labor on one-time, seasonal, peak load or intermittent basis. So the H2B visa is mostly for labor, right? So it can be skilled or unskilled. But H1B visa is mostly for professionals. So this difference should be clear to you. Now, as we already told, blue collar workers, they are working class who performs manual labor, the working manufacturing, warehousing, mining, excavation, electricity generation, etc. So that is the main water base of Donald Trump. Now coming to the last article for today, script for unity. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's reminder that COVID-19 does not recognize race, religion, color, caste, creed, language or border was very essential at this point of time when the country is facing communal issues which are linked to the COVID pandemic. The Prime Minister has recognized the calamitous rage of the virus when he called for response and conduct that should attach primacy to unity and brotherhood. The importance should be given to unity and brotherhood. If we start to face off with each other in the name of religion, in the name of community, or whatever differences we have among us, we are going to fail. We can win this battle against the COVID only if we are together and resilient, right? So the Prime Minister spoke this against the backdrop of criticism of apparent communal strand in the response of some sections of the society. So this communal strand should be avoided. It must be avoided if we have to win the battle against COVID. So, and this situation took international ramifications when a section of the Indian diaspora in the UAE started spread getting into social media like Facebook and posting derogatory comments against the communities in India. So what happened is the UAE government took serious note of this issue, and they were many of them lost their jobs. So this, and it has also created issues between the bilateral relationship that our Prime Minister has personally nurtured with government, various international governments. So this is the bad situation at a time when we have to fight against a pandemic as one, in a together manner. People now have started to communalize the issue, which is very bad for a country like India. Also, the narrative of this pandemic as a communal conspiracy against the nation began to take shape immediately after the Tablighi Jamaat congregation in Delhi, which turned out to be a source of the contagion. So this is the issue which started all these communal issues. It could have been avoided. All this makes the Prime Minister's statement timely. His call for unity in the face of this calamity must be translated into firm action, and a good place to begin is the government's own messaging. I hope people who are listening this will ensure that any kind of communal sentiments, communalizing the issue should be avoided at any cost, because it is very dangerous for the unity of the country itself. So that is all for today's video. I hope, and yeah, and coming to other articles which you can read, page 1, more sectors will open by May 3rd, says Sanjeev Sanyal. He is the principal economic advisor. Second news is the cabinet approves rupees 15,000 crore package at page 8. And stress and anxiety wise, rise, it is rise, okay, amid pandemic, page 11. Please go through these articles also. There's nothing much in that, but it is worth a good read. Okay, I hope you guys like the video. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, as well as press the bell icon for instant updates. Also, please share it with your friends so that the aspirants will be benefited at this time when newspapers are very less available. I mean, the hard copies are very less available. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you.